der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er noch vor sich. Dann ist es Freiburg. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der Feld. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrje!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. Another weekend, another round for myself and Dad Jan to analyze. Dad, I see you wearing the Eintracht Frankfurt shirt. You also got one over your left shoulder there. 0-0 for Eintracht. We'll go straight into it. I guess, why are you wearing the Eintracht shirt? Is a difficult time to kind of make sense of where Eintracht is right now, as we've discussed previously?
Dino Topmel, the new coach, young coach, was the assistant of Julian Nagelsmann. So this is his first big job. Yes, they haven't lost the game yet, but they're struggling scoring goals, which is not very surprisingly. Moani left them on the eve of the Bundesliga, of course. Then on loan, Borré, who made that decisive penalty when they beat Rangers in the Europa Cup final, Euroleague. And he scored, of course, this weekend. Of course he did when Bremen won. So I'm just putting on this as a mental strength to Eintracht, because we have to start scoring goals. The Argentine Aralio, I think we say it like that, is on his way back. I just read it before we went on, Marcus. He's training, Lucas, and he's around 30 years of age, Argentine, been a lot of injury. So now he's our hope. He's the most typical number 9 in the team. But yes, 0-0 against Freiburg at home, created 3 chances. So Dino Topmel says not only we not scoring goals, not enough crosses. So Murphy's Law. It's get worse and worse, you know.
But even still undefeated. So I guess we, in terms of looking at it from a cup half full perspective, let's not talk too much about the 0-0 game. The first 0-0 game of the season. Let's just head on to the more exciting games, I guess. 7-0 for Bayern Munich. Second year in a row in which Bochum concedes 7 against Bayern. A Harry Kane firing on all cylinders. 3 goals, 2 assists. Looking like the old kind of Bayern there at home, Dad.
Harry Kane beating all records. He's now beating a record first 5 or 6 games, scoring the most goals ever, beating Gerd Müller, maybe the best goal getter in the world. Some fun fact, in Germany, they don't call it hat-trick. Because if you score a hat-trick in Germany, to make that 100% proper, you have to score all in the same half, which is crap. I mean, that is just stupid. He got a hat-trick, got his first hat-trick. And second fun fact is, when a player scores 3 goals in German, they call it Dreierpack. So 3, a package of 3 goals. But as you were saying, also scoring, now doing 2 assists. Musiala was... They're just a great team. They're just great to watch. And when they starting like this, is unbelievable. They're playing a cup game tomorrow. We are recording this on a Monday night. So they have a Tuesday Münster. Then I think Tuchel has a chance to rotate a bit. I saw the Israeli new goalkeeper Perez is supposed to play. De Ligt out with an injury, so there he has to do something anyway. But you know, Tuchel you can't lose in a cup. You can't lose against Münster. So I think there is always a bit awareness of doing that. But 7-0, and the funny thing is, I maybe have the stats wrong now, but I think it's in the last 2-3 seasons, that is the 3rd time they're beating Bochum 7-0. I mean, how is that possible? I mean, yes, former Sheffield United man, losing now 8-0 to Newcastle. I know all about that. But that is a sad, but is Bayern at their best.
It is, and it is one of those in which that is the comparison, right? The standard by which we expect from Bayern. So last season, you know, the discrepancy between what Bayern was and what they can be is the reason for our expectations, the reason for our criticism, right? Because then you also see a Kane, I was about to say Kane, but a Kane and a Sané together as well. Because Kane's got 3 goals, but he's also got 2 assists. He's dropping deep. And that is part of Kane's game as well. And when they get that relation right there, and I think, you know, Sané has been, along with Kane, Bayern's best player. And we're going to talk about another player very shortly, Dad, and we got some external input to shed some light on that. But they've got some extremely exciting players. And so when they're in top form, then I say, oh yes, of course, win the Bundesliga, but also maybe the Champions League as well.
Yeah, we're talking about RB Leipzig. We will talk about them swapping the two strikers, starting 11, and then they get 2 on, and they do fantastically. One of them scoring. We'll talk more about Timo Werner later. But it was interesting in this game. Who made it 1-0 was Choupo-Moting. So and Tel came in and scored as well. So then they got 3 capable strikers to score goals, and I think that is a big difference between last season. They didn't have a striker, which will make them better, will make them more likely to progress even in the Champions League, which is the standard for Bayern Munich. So very excited by that. And now, of course, the goal difference took them back to the top of the league, and I'm just worrying how long they will stay there. Worrying not that I respect Bayern, but as every year, we hope that the teams around them will be there. And to be fair, Marcus, could be a bridge then to the next games. All of them did, more or less.
They did indeed. And I don't know that before we go over to, well, I say the category being the goals. And, you know, you mentioned a lack of strikers for Bayern last season. We now got a lot of contenders to very likely to beat the 16 goals that won the top scorer title in the Bundesliga. But we also had Julien Laurens to provide some input on Mathys Tel, the 18-year-old. One of our first episodes, in fact, that last season was discussing Mathys Tel as the new wonderkid that Bayern had signed, and I'll attach that to the end of this video so people can listen then as well. But let's hear what Jules said about Mathys Tel.
Jules and myself, we are at Arsenal today. It's the North London derby, but still, as we always do, we look also to Germany. And Jules, I want to ask you, we have a French guy who has played 73 minutes, scored 4, 1 assist, and he's 18. Tell us about this wonder kid, Mathys Tel.
Listen, he was always a genius, to be fair. When he was 14, 15 in Paris, we knew there was a special talent. And I think he's proving this now. And it was interesting, he did a big interview in L'Equipe newspaper before the Manchester United game in the Champions League, where he said that finally at Bayern now, it feels like everybody is accepting him, that he's really part of the squad. Whereas when he arrived last season, which is normal, he was only 17, there was nobody in that Bayern dressing room who'd heard of him before. It's impossible. Thomas Müller didn't know anything about him, Kimmich neither, Goretzka neither. And now after a year training with him, I think they finally made him one of them. And I think that's why maybe there's also more confidence from him. He was always very talented, he just needed that little bit of help to be able to express himself. And for now, he's still an impact sub role that he has. He's a bit of a guy coming off the bench trying to make something happen. But soon, or at some point, he will become a starter, and it will be amazing. He turned 18 in April, and at 18 he's capable of doing things like that. I mean, you know, as a starter,
And Jules, at the paradox, sorry to interrupt, but I just think that is so interesting, because now he has arrived at the paradox. He has arrived when Harry Kane have arrived as a clear number 9, and maybe that is so the good thing for him, because now he can just make his own tempo.
Yeah, and I remember speaking to his people last season about something else, and then we started to talk about Mathys, and he said how much he learned from Thomas Müller last season, for example, just watching him at training. And learning what Müller was very good at, being at the right place at the right time all the time, things like that. Now imagine what he can learn from Harry Kane too. And of course, Mathys Tel wants to play every game, right? And he knows that Harry Kane being here, Harry Kane is the starter, and he's very much the replacement. However, he also knows that his time will come, and everything is learning with Harry Kane in terms of movement, awareness, even playing a bit more at times, not just as a number 9, but also a bit deeper, a bit as a 10. Having the ball a bit more, passing the ball a bit more will be very useful for his career. So it's a great time for him. I think he will score. He scored 5 already, as you said. So he scored 5 last season in the league. He scored 3 already in the Bundesliga.
4.
Yeah, 3 in the league plus 1 in the Champions
exactly.
League. Yeah.
You're right.
So he's
of course
already,
you're right. You're always right.
No, but already he's almost at the tally of last season. Yeah. And we're only still in September. So
so this was Emmanuel Petit, and he compared Martin Odegaard with Zinedine Zidane. So then I'll go to the next French guy, ask you if you're gonna tell our listeners, who will you compare Mathys Tel with? There's some good French attackers over the time.
I mean, for me, it's another Kylian Mbappe, and
I
mean,
big shout.
Yeah, big shout. He might, or even Thierry Henry was very similar to Mathys Tel when he was younger, like Kylian, and I don't know what the future holds for Mathys Tel, if he will be that big one day or whatever. I wish him the best, of course, but he's got that, the pace, the power in his legs, the intelligence that he has, the finishing. We saw the goal against United, for example. The touch, that's a very Kylian Mbappe-esque goal, or Thierry Henry's goal, really. The touch and then the finishing like that. So for me, this is what he needs to aim for. This is the kind of profile, the kind of career that he's in the right club. I think Thomas Tuchel really, really likes him, and he likes Tuchel a lot. So let's see how far he can go at Bayern.
I think we just have to end it, because we have to give the honor and the praise to the guys who need to be praised here, because this was Salahamidzic getting Mathys Tel at a good time, and he said, to be fair to him, and he said, this is a guy we're going to slowly build up to a top striker.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know 30 million euros at the time for a 17-year-old who played 7 games in Ligue 1 before for Rennes was a lot, or could feel like a lot of money. I think he's repaid that already, to be fair. And just imagine, again, only 18 years old, what the next few years holds for him at Bayern. I think that money will be very well spent, there's no doubt.
So Jules and myself, we're going now back to the second half of Arsenal. When you listen to this, you know all about it. But Jules and myself, we're a one game. We will always follow the rest of the Europe games as well. So thanks a lot, Jules.
Thank you, man.
Cheers, mate.
That was Julien Laurens providing some input on the wonderkid, Mathys Tel, who has started so well this season, hasn't he, Dad?
Absolutely, both Jules and Mathys Tel. Jules is a dear colleague that I work with sometimes at ESPN, and he's very knowledgeable of a lot of nations, football nations, and that's what we do. I'm sitting in. I did City, Nottingham Forest on Saturday. I did the North London Derby on Sunday, but I still sit there following, using my live updates, seeing if there's any great goals around it. And talking about goals, Marcus, you were saying, I will just bump into the Torjägerkanone, which means the top scorer in Germany now. Guirassy, your special player, Stuttgart guy, got 2 goals again. Now he got 10 goals for Guirassy for Stuttgart.
He had 11 goals all of last season. What is there?
Yes, and then Harry Kane 7. We talked about him. Boniface got a brace again, 6 goals, and Wint, who didn't score this, 5, and then you have a lot of players on 4. But I think I'm not sure if it could be a battle about it, but they're going to beat the records from, like you said, 16 last year. And if we start with Leverkusen, then Marcus, that was the Sunday game. Leverkusen winning 4-1 against Heidenheim. It was 1-1 after an hour, but with the quality they have in Hoffmann, who came from Gladbach, in Boniface, one of the goals were penalty, but still his abilities and his self-confidence is fantastic at the moment. I look forward to. I'm going to do the game for Viaplay. If you think it's me that is having a host, what do you say in English?
It's a cough or allergic reaction.
Coughing is our dog, Marcus, little Bex. But yes, so I'm doing Molde, Norwegian team, against Leverkusen. I look forward to that. Another win for them, 4-1 against Heidenheim.
Yeah, another 4-1. Another win, 4-1 win, undefeated in the Bundesliga. And Frank Schmidt giving a book to Xabi Alonso, his own book as well, which is a nice touching moment. It was
and
nice.
I liked that Leverkusen kind of got it out. Thank you. Frank Schmidt's been there for ages, done a fantastic job. We're always talking about Alonso coming there doing a fantastic job. But imagine Frank Schmidt. I mean, take him up and be there for ages. Brilliant gesture from all of them.
And I think Heidenheim will stay up this season.
Maybe they will.
Yeah, I think they will. Well, there are some teams they're struggling big time. You have a Mainz, you have a Köln, you have a Darmstadt, Werder Bremen winning 2-1 against Köln, which was key. Other teams down there struggling. But yeah, on the topic of goal scorers, that you mentioned Boniface, you also have Guirassy, who has 10 goals in 5 games. They are calling it, and this is part of your time playing, Dad. It is.
He's coughing Bex.
He wants to be involved. He's very excited for the Bex documentary coming out next week, I think.
Yeah.
But comparison being made to the Magische Dreieck, which is the magic triangle that of a 96-97 Bundesliga they're a good source to follow, obviously. And they had the one of Giovanni Elber.
Brazilian went to Bayern later.
Balakov.
Oh, playmaker, Bulgarian Balakov, yeah.
And a known associate of yours, so to speak, or an acquaintance, Freddie Bobic. So they were the ones that got top 4 there, won the German Cup. But they're comparing now Guirassy Furish and Milo to that. Obviously, Guirassy will account for most of those goal contributions, but there's a sense of optimism. And why not be carried away by Stuttgart, who were, for a brief moment there, top of the Bundesliga after so many years of misery and just no excitement, really, right? For a club like Stuttgart to be back at the top.
Yeah, and not only that, it's interesting with, I've been following German football since I was 7, and a lot of these teams are, kind of, you define them with the big factories are there. So Stuttgart, that is Mercedes. So imagine all the quality, all the money they have in Stuttgart, everything is fine like a Mercedes. You have Wolfsburg, you have Volkswagen, of course. You have Leverkusen, then, who will have all the pills and everything, creams that you buy, and in the chemistry, and you can go on. You have Hoffenheim, with a computers company, RB Leipzig, Red Bull, and so on and so on. But yes, to your question, to your observation, Marcus, it's great to have Stuttgart back. A great club that produced many world-class players over the years, so it's great to have them back.
No, it is indeed. They are the second highest scoring team in the Bundesliga, 17 goals to their name. Bayern, obviously, with 18 after that 7-0 victory. Dortmund win against Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
A stubborn Wolfsburg who sat deep, weren't too interested in maybe taking initiative of the game, had their chances. A Wind had his chance, but then it's Marco Reus coming in. And Marco Reus, it was a fun stat, and I'm not too caught up in stats, but it's interesting in terms of the timing of these goals. It was his 62nd 1-0 goal in his Bundesliga career,
which is an unbelievable great skill, Marcus.
Yeah, but please put it into context. Yeah, but please put that into context. Why I mention that is because it's obviously a difference in scoring 4-0 goal, right? That it's a man for the moment.
Yeah, but I think that I always define, as you know, I love the goal scoring part of football, and I always say players, you have strikers who score goals, then you have goal getters, and then you have some strikers who never score goals. But that is another story. But the 1-0 goal scorers, why is that so important? When Lewandowski left Bayern, it was not only they missed his 40 goals, of course they did, but you need that 1-0. It loosens things up. It gets you out of prison, because if you're a great team and you get that 1-0, I mean, a great team can play against a weaker team, and you can always park the bus. You can stay at the back. You can try to trust your counter-attack abilities. But if you get a 1-0, you kind of loosen up, because then you have to go forward. Then you get 2 or 3-0. That didn't happen for Marco Reus, but it happened so many times, and that just shows the quality of a Marco Reus. Sometimes when we have all these stats for goal scoring, that I think that is a wonderful stat, because the 1-0 scorer is the most important player on the pitch.
Indeed, his.
Vent lite, Marcus. Jag må bara slippa Bex. Har du han här? Kan du ropa på Bex? Ja, vi var i Dortmund nå. Hvor lenge har vi holdt på?
Nei, det går fint der. Jeg skal bare avslutningsvis komme til å snakke bare vi har ikke nevnt det siden Nagelsmann, tror jeg, ble ansatt. Jeg tror ikke vi gjorde det. Ja. Indeed, and that moves... Jeg tar det igjen for noen ganger henger lyden av skjermen. Indeed, and that was Marco Reus's 116th goal for Dortmund, moving him up to the third in lists of their top scores in the club, Bundesliga goals. That is, just want to mention, because I want to, the way I organize it, Dad, I also want to mention the fact that Union Berlin, losing their third league game in a row, fourth in total, obviously lost very late on to Real Madrid. Heartache in that sense, but a commendable performance nonetheless. But then we have Hoffenheim, and I'm going to flaunt this as long as I can, Dad, because the predictions are predictions. They are there to be remembered and forgotten. But I did predict a little Hoffenheim resurgence. The ever young, the ever consistent Kramaric, who scored again his 26th penalty goal in 30 attempts in the Bundesliga. And then their top scorer actually this season, Maximilian Bayer, who has 4 goals to his name, but they win 2-0 away to Union Berlin. Union Berlin, we predicted a bit of a tougher season for them with more to manage. But when is it too early to call it a crisis, Dad, when you have that many losses to your name?
Well, first of all, another fun fact, a German word, Doppelbelastung, is that you play twice a week, and that is new for Union Berlin. But did you see who played the center half for Union Berlin? Bonucci. He played for them, didn't help. Hoffenheim
had a very strong performance against Real Madrid. He was massive, and then he got subbed out. But this game, he was a bit...
Yeah.
Gave away a penalty.
Yeah, Kramaric, as you say, not only a great player, always lovely to interview him because he's one of the good guys around. But you saw Newcastle going to Milan to San Siro, got a point there, didn't play fantastically, but came back, won 8-0 against my Sheffield United. Union Berlin, you got to get used to that. And I'm not saying that they are in a crisis. I think that this is more... They adjust. We don't hope for all the hipsters out there who loves Union Berlin that they will be down there. But it is a warning signal that they can't win the games or can't win enough games. And the beginning of the season, we should wait 10, 12 games or 10, 12 rounds to see how the teams are doing, but there is a direction. There's something to it, and Union Berlin got to watch out because, as you were saying, you have a feeling that the Battle of Heidenheim will be there. Yes, Mainz could be down there, but they still got a quality. So yeah, Union Berlin should watch out.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see as we proceed and look forward to what awaits them in the Champions League, obviously. Just to end in terms of games, because we will do our player of the week. Just to mention that Augsburg won against Mainz. Well, people predicted a very average season for Mainz, and says that they would be mid-table like they often are, but now they find themselves, 1 point so far in 5 games. Lose there, a big win for Augsburg. Demirovic with 2 goals, a big win for Enrico Maaßen. I'll relate this as part of player of the week, Dad, but Leipzig win away to Gladbach, who started off the game strongly, but then Marco Rose put in a triple substitution consisting of Paulsen, Baumgartner, and a certain Timo Werner, who's been under a bit of criticism.
First, before I start with my player of the week, I will just say that Marco Rose went back to his Gladbach. He came from Red Bull Salzburg. He then went to Gladbach, and then he had a buyout clause that he went then to Dortmund. Just after 1 year, he got fired. No, back at Leipzig, but where he was born. Yes, this was a great win for Leipzig. These are the games you got to win because, first of all, atmosphere in Gladbach fantastic. They haven't had a great season so far, but it's still, to come away with 3 points is brilliantly. And as you were saying, Marcus, I always had a soft spot for Timo Werner. Timo Werner was very linked to Liverpool Football Club. We knew at that time, or I reported that Klopp had talked to him. Klopp wanted him to Liverpool. And then they played against Tottenham at the new stadium. He scored a winner on a penalty. And I got an interview with him after the game. And I thought, wow, I have to ask him about Liverpool. And he was the most open guy ever. And I was kind of looking with my eyes, looking at the Pressesprecherin, the lady who was responsible for the press. No, she didn't do anything. She was doing some texting and everything. And he more or less said he wanted to go to Liverpool. Then we know the history that he went to Chelsea Football Club. He came there during COVID. The reason I say that is that Timo Werner is one of those guys that you feel like to be home, sitting in the sofa, watching a Netflix series or something. He's that kind of player. And him and Havertz coming to London at that time, you just felt that they didn't feel at home straight away. But at the end of the day, they won the Champions League. Timo Werner played in that game. He played in that Champions League final. And Kai Havertz got the winner. Now Timo Werner then goes back to Leipzig. and did well, scored some goals, felt that he got his confidence back. But then there's a lot of new strikers coming in there. You know, you got Seško, you got Simons from PSG, who can play in that position, and Upamendo, do I say that right? Openda, yeah. And he coming back. So then Marco Rose, this week, I was reading all the sport papers in magazines in Germany, was talking about this, working hard in training, he'll get his chance again and he'll take it. And then how football is, you come into the 70th minute and you score in the 75th minute. I mean, I just feel for them so much, because it's that goal for a striker. This could be one of many, because sometimes you are in that trouble. I quoted Sir Alex Ferguson, but I used that quote as well myself, is that if a striker scores goals, you think, just give me another game, I will score again. If you don't score a goal, you think, I will never, ever score again. And I think Timo Werner was there. And now he came on and got a very vital goal for his Leipzig.
Yeah, a very important win. Recommend interviews with Timo Werner. He's actually a rather funny, interesting character on certain segments.
He is. And so I should have said that was my player of the week, but you can probably put that on. But so Timo Werner, just because I feel good for him. I would like him to succeed. He was also out of the German national team, which since we talked, it's official now. Julian Nagelsmann is a new head coach, just over the Euros though. So the speculations will still be there. We know they have the wet dream to get Jurgen Klopp, but Klopp never break a contract, so I can't see that happening. And Liverpool is flying in the Premier League now, so I can't see that happening. But Julian Nagelsmann over the summer, and it's going to be interesting to see if Timo Werner can get that chance again. They're struggling on the striker position, and we'll see what Julian Nagelsmann will do. What's your player of the week?
My player of the week, I'll go steady Eddie Dad. I'll have to go Harry Kane. And Harry Kane is my player of the week because they win 7-0. He scores 3 goals. He's got 2 assists. He shows the great range of a player he is, in which he is able to be the goal scorer. He's also be able to be the provider. He starts off in record fashion with 7 goals in 5 games, as good of a start as any Bayern player has ever done, and being the player Bayern hoped for. Obviously Harry Kane has been brought in to not just win the Bundesliga, but to win other trophies, including the big one, the Champions League. But it looks very promising for Bayern and Harry Kane in the form that he is in now.
Good choice. And before we say auf Wiedersehen, Markus, I will do my special on the Zweite Bundesliga, because that Zweite Bundesliga never stopped producing the stories. Today, I will go to Schalke. Schalke, one of the biggest clubs in Germany. They just made a plan that they're going to be the top 6 in Germany. They find themselves now on the 16th position in the Zweite Liga, second league. They lost this weekend, and not only did they lose at St. Pauli, but after the game, Baumgartel, one of their players, made the most honest interview I've heard in my whole life. He more or less said that Rice, I played with Rice when he played at Bochum back in the days when I was playing for Eintracht Frankfurt. Rice has no idea, there's no plan, and they asked him, but do you follow the plan of the coach? Yeah, but it's hard to follow the plan of the coach when it's a bad plan. So what did Schalke do? Well, he's suspended. He's not more at training now. So he's just, it can't be played now. So there is crisis all over the place. And just at the end, then our Hamburger Sportsverein, they lost last round, big club as well. I would say one of the top 6 clubs in Germany. Last round, they lost 2-1 to Elversberg. And then they played Osnabrück. Osnabrück, who lost 7-0 to Hannover last round. So this is going to be an easy ride for Hamburger Sportsverein. And lost, of course. So Hamburger Sportsverein are doing their best to do what they can best, is to try to get into the Bundesliga, and will fail at the end. Now it's Fortuna Düsseldorf at the top, Holstein Kiel, a lot of teams are there. But the big ones, they just keep on losing.
I'm increasingly enjoying this little Zweite Bundesliga
Zweite
jingle.
Bundesliga, yeah.
Yeah, they do their best, don't they, Schalke Hamburg, to make it difficult for themselves, whether they persist and get up and be top 6, like you said. I think we're a bit far away from. But big clubs, that's what makes the second Bundesliga so entertaining as well. Dad, I thank you for that and for another week, and then we will catch up next week.
Auf Wiedersehen.